wasn't too soggy wet like mine was, but what can you do, right? It's the holidays, it's summer. All right, gang, so we're going to pick up when we left off on last Thursday. We're going to finish off products today, and then we're going to get into Form Designer, because I held off on Form Designer because those two are really connected to one another. And then if we've time permitting, we're going to get into Report Viewer. So let's kind of jump right into this. So to refresh your memory, because we had the weekend off, let's just kind of go through again. So we went through, we're in the middle of product setup, but again, just to, when you're building this out, you want to start from the beginning. So the first thing you're going to do, again, is you're going to go into your summary groups. And this has all to do with the report categories and reporting in general, I should say. So basically when you're doing this, you're going to set up what your, basically I call them global reporting categories, if you will. So that's our summary groups. Food, beverage, liquor, merchandise, and other are the ones that are basically hard-coded in the system. And then you create, or if you will, for report types, I should say, and then you create what report categories, or summary categories, excuse me, are going to be related to those. And again, you want to keep this down to a minimum. This is like that big, broad overview. What did I do in food sales? What did I do in maybe non-alcoholic beverage sales? What did I do in liquor sales? What did I do in merchandising sales? Other kind of stuff. Rated, if you do rated items, and again, rated items are the ones where you can set up by time. So again, big in bowling alleys and pool halls, where they're renting the tables or they're renting the lanes by the hour and you're charging them accordingly. That's kind of maybe what you would do for a special category for those. So it's just really those roll-up bottom numbers. What were my food sales? What were my... but again, it all varies. You customize it based on the restaurant that you're working with. So we get those in there, then we get a little bit more finite, and that's when we get into the reporting categories. That's when you break it down a little bit more. So you have food, but maybe you break out your food for appetizers, entrees. Maybe you do appetizer, salads, entrees, or you want to break them up by item, cooking stations, if you will, or types, so grilled items, pasta items. Or maybe you do it by your meat group, so maybe you do it by beef and poultry and seafood, all depending on how the customer wants to look at their numbers. This is the report categories is your lowest level before you get into actual item detail. So maybe not wines isn't good enough for them. They actually want glass wines and bottled wines, so maybe you'll make wines as a summary category. So you just got to find out from them how detailed, when they're rolling things out, how detailed do they want those numbers? What is that bulk number they're looking for? And the sub categories, if you will, of that bulk number. So maybe I want to look at my wine sales, but I also want to take it down to reds and whites. Or maybe I want to do it by growing regions or types. So I'm actually into details like Merlot versus my Chardonnays versus my Cabernet Sauvignons and so on and so forth. Okay, so you really do have to quiz your customer to find out what they're looking for, so you can properly set this up, because you don't want to bulk everything up and then find out after the fact that they want to break it down to a lower level. Okay, so we talked about that, and we talked about configuration setup, which again, report categories and configuration setup. When you're setting up those items, you're also setting up some of the prerequisites of those items, where they print to, what the tax group is, what are the default modifier windows that pop up, and you can control that again by configuration setup and also by report category setup. And you're just looking for commonalities. You know, all appetizers typically print to what printer? Liquor items typically have what tax rate applied to them if you're in a place where there's multiple tax rates. So it just gives you some of that flexibility. And again, remember then when you get into actual product setup, you can take it a level further, where you can literally item by item determine what prints where, what tax is going to apply, etc. So we talked about the initial setup screen, the 3 different descriptions, the 11 different prices that we have on it, the look of the buttons, the color, the text, if you want to put a button picture on it, so on and so forth. Again, applying the category or the configuration type to the particular item, and then type of product, and all the different types of products that we have, and what each of the buttons, when you're thinking of a product, think of it kind of as a button that you want them to touch, and what do I want that to do for them. The common ones that you're going to always work with are going to be your order products, which is the actual main item, the hamburger, the lobster, the pasta dish. Options are going to be those modifiers, extra, no, on the side, things of those nature, and then you get into some of the other custom special ones. Delay print command, this is going to come into play when you're talking courses, hold and fire courses, that type of thing. So each one of these has a different variety of functionality to them when you set it up. So one thing I do want to pause on this about is this is where this whole section of this back office is where I'm going to stress to you guys, use your help guides, use your system setup guides, get onto the partner portal and pull up some of the various webinars that have already been created for some of these specific functionalities, because there's so much, it's so in-depth, and this is the core of your menu building. Besides finding out what functionalities they do and don't want to use, designing that menu and the functionalities that you want it to have. This is where you really do need to utilize the learning tools that you have, because one, hour-long class or 2-hour-long class is not going to cut it with everything there is to it. So kind of just to take you through, I'm just going to go through the product list and how this goes through all of the different types. And like here, this page literally will take you through the functionality of every one of those product types and what it does, how you set it up, what you set it up in conjunction with. All right, so definitely use your back office help and also any of the videos that are out there, the webinars that are already out there on the system. All right, so we'll go back into product setup here again. So we've gotten through all that. We've finished off through customization. Again, this is where you can define, if we're going to do user define, we're not going to follow what the standard print channel is, or the standard tax, or the standard modifier screens, etc. That's where you can go ahead and define your own custom. Recipes is, again, where you're going to assign a recipe. Let me get into an actual, let's see if we did a recipe here. Of course we did. Maybe we did for the combo burger. Nope, I guess we didn't. But you actually assign the actual physical recipe to the actual item. Advanced tab is where you get to switch it up a little bit. This is where there's some other customizations. And we've gotten through most of these. One of the ones I wanted to come back to is feature code. And I deliberately want to use the help guides on this so you guys can see what these feature codes are. So I'm going to drop down product setups, and here you're going to see a whole section here about feature codes. What are some of the feature codes? So this, again, is another place that you really want to familiarize yourself with some of the different feature codes. And again, this kind of predates policies, extensive policies, I should say, and some of the actual functions that we've added to the system, where you can take an item, in this case, and we're turning it into something else. You can see there's a variety of feature codes here. And there's an example of what all of them do. So like, for instance, feature code 1. This is huge for tax-inclusive price. Inclusive in what I ordered in the bar, but when I order the same exact item in the dining room, it's not tax inclusive. This is one of the starting places that you have to go to set that up. So for each individual item, so say for the beer items, you're going to use feature code 1 to tell the system that this is a tax inclusive item, as long as I've got a corresponding tax that goes with it. Default pricing. So for instance, feature code 3, hold and fire. So this is important. If you're going to do hold and fire in your system, you need to use feature code 3 in order to set that up. And also feature code 4 comes in handy with order later type of thing. That's sort of like the timing of it, where you can tell it you're going to come back and do something more to the ticket. But just, just for a real example here of, say, a feature code, let me go ahead and find my fire button. I thought I had a fire button. Hold, there we go, hold and fire we called it. So here what we would have done is we're going to set that up as a delayed printing command. So this would be a button that you'll actually put on the screen. So when the server is ringing up the order, as they bring up, like say I bring up my appetizers, my Caesar salad, my garden salad, I hit my hold and fire button. What that does is it tells the system that this is a print delay command. And then over in advance for feature code, I'm putting in a code number 3. So it's going to sit on that until I tell it to move forward. Now, one of the things you can do with using the time served is you can have an auto fire functionality. So maybe I'm telling it that when I use this particular hold and fire, you wait 5 minutes. So any items that are ordered after you hit the hold and fire button, it's going to wait 5 minutes and then it's going to send it. And you can set up multiple hold and fire buttons if you want an auto fire situation popping up. So as a server, I go in and I ring up my appetizers and I hit my hold and fire button. Then I ring up my entrees and hit my hold and fire button. And then I put in my desserts if I so chose. What the system is going to do is it's going to send off your appetizers and then it's going to wait. And whatever time frame you've associated with this particular hold and fire button, again, you could have multiples. You could have a hold and fire appetizer, you could have a hold and fire entree, you could have a hold and fire dessert. Each of them are labeled out. And then you go in here and you set up what your time delay is. So if after and basically appetizers you kind of consider as an auto fire, so you wouldn't hit a hold and fire button beforehand. So again, my salads go first, then I hit hold and fire, then I order, say, my pasta and my steak. And then if I put in 5 minutes here, it's going to wait 5 minutes, and then it's auto going to send that lobster and that steak, or that pasta and that steak. And again, if I had hit hold and fire again, I'll wait another 5 minutes, or maybe I have another one that says dessert. For dessert, I wait 30 minutes. And after 30 minutes, then it sends the dessert order to the kitchen. You can do a variety of combinations with these, or you could have it where, again, maybe you're not using the auto fire functionality, but you are saying it's a hold and fire function. So then you set up another button for when the server manually wants to fire it. So again, I've put in all my courses, and the server would have a button then to manually fire off. It's like, okay, I'm ready. I've served the salads. I think now's a good time to send the pasta and the steak to the kitchen, so then I manually fire off that entree course. And again, that also works in tandem with your courses here. What grouping did you put everything in? You know, is my pasta and my lobster or my steak in the main course? And now I'm going to fire off my main course dishes. So all that kind of works in tandem when you're building these out. Okay? So there is your feature code. So definitely go through the back office guide. This is going to go through, and it walks you through all of these, you know, things that they can never be couponed. You can actually set up an item, like, so say for a gift certificate, for places that still haven't quite gotten into gift cards yet, and they're selling paper gift certificates through the system. You're going to set up that paper gift certificate as an item, and then you can go in there and you can put feature code 6 in there, so no matter what they do, they can never apply a coupon to that particular item. So think in terms of when you have an open percent key or an open dollar coupon, or you have a general just 10% off coupon that you put out there. But again, if they have a gift certificate applied on that ticket, it's going to ignore that item. Setting up manual surcharges, auto charges, just a variety of different functionality codes in here that you can use that gives you some additional functionality that you can to teach an individual item. Okay, we covered everything else through there. So let's go into shift products. Shift products is so you can kind of cut down the number of buttons on your screen. Shift products literally will shift an item into something else. So say, for instance, for all of my tap beers, I can get them in an 8-ounce glass, a 12-ounce glass, or a pitcher. But I don't want, you know, Bud, 8-ounce Bud, 12-ounce Bud, pitcher Bud, Corona, and again, repeat that. So for every item, I would need to have 3 correlating buttons on my screen. And the screens can get pretty, you know, crowded. If they've got 8 beers on tap, you're going to run out of screen space unless you have to make your buttons really, really, really small. So one of the things you can do is you do these shift keys. So what you would have on your screen is you would have to build all of them in the menu. So you would still build in your 8-ounce Bud, your 12-ounce Bud, your pitcher Bud, 8-ounce Coors, 12-ounce Coors, pitcher Coors, etc. So for every beer, you would build in their corresponding size. Every one of those would be in the system. On the actual screen, though, you could say just put the 8-ounce Bud on the screen, or you could just have, again, build another button called Bud, and then you also have, so you'd have Bud, Coors, you know, Bud Light, Miller, whatever it is, all on your screen, those buttons on your screen. So say I have 8 different beers, I'd have one of each of those 8 different beers on my screen. Then I'd also have a 8-ounce glass key, a 12-ounce glass key, and a pitcher key. So then you do corresponding ordering. So I would hit my 8-ounce, hit my Bud, that turns it into the 8-ounce product called 8-ounce glass Bud. Hit my 12-ounce, that would hit Bud, that would turn it into the 12-ounce Coors, if you will, or Bud, if you will. So you have all those buttons created in your system, but of all those buttons, you're only putting X number on your screen. And that's where the shift keys come in line, because then basically, if this were Bud, so let's get out of here, cancel no, oops, cancel yes, and let me go find my Bud. I think this hopefully is built, bingo. So here's my Bud Light, and there's my shift key 8-ounce. So I basically hit my little arrows, and then I'm going to go find my 8-ounce product Bud that I built in my system, if I had built it in the system, which I didn't. I can go in and then link it. So basically, I'm creating the formula. When I hit the shift button, 8-ounce glass, and I hit Bud Light, it turns into, in this case, it's going to turn into a B52. If I hit that combination, so I hit the button, that's my shift key 2, which I've labeled 12-ounce glass, and the product called Bud Light, it's going to turn into, in this case, it's going to turn into my amaretto sour. So you're linking them up as you go through, okay? If the item isn't in my system, I can hit my little dots, and again, that's where I can go ahead and search. So I do have some of them up. There's my example right there. I knew I had an example set up. That's what happens when you have a belated Monday. You'll lose your marbles. Corona. So there's my Corona. Corona, we'll do extra Corona. So here I have my shift keys for these set up. So I hit the shift key 1, and again, the buttons when you create them, shift 1, shift 2, shift 3, you've designated them to be your shift keys. And then this is what I happen to call them. Again, I can call them anything I want, but this is what I call them. So I'm going to hit my 8-ounce glass button with my Corona, it's going to turn into the 8-ounce Corona. 12-ounce glass button with my Corona Extra, it turns into my 12-ounce Corona. Pitcher, linked, and turns into my pitcher Corona. So you can go up to 10 shift keys for any item that you create in the system. So it's just a nice clean way. Instead of having all of these 3 on my screen times 8, if I've got 8 taps, I end up having only 1, my Corona Extra button, and my 3 shift keys on the screen. So it saves a lot of real estate, and it makes it a little cleaner for the store, and in terms of what their screens look like. Okay, because maybe you don't want to have a draft beer screen and a bottle beer screen. This would all give you the flexibility of possibly having a 1 beer screen. Okay, user definable. This is just like we did with employee setup, where you can set up a definable tab. Now, mind you, this has nothing to do with front of the house. It has nothing to do with actually programming the menu item. This is strictly about reporting. So, for instance, we created one here for domestic. What is it domestic, yes or no? Beer, bottle, draft or bottle? Again, is it a draft or is it a bottled? So again, this is strictly for reporting purposes. It doesn't do anything for functionality out on the front side of things. And I also want to note too that when it comes to the definable, the kiosk form I have here, the combo form, and there's also another one for web to go, which we're not going to go into, those are all policy settings you have to turn on in order for those tabs to show up. They're not by default. So anytime you're looking for a tab that you've seen in some of the training materials, go check for a policy to actually turn it on. Kiosk Forms is designed for the kiosk. So you would have, and this goes into the modifier screens and force questions. So in a kiosk world, you will, more often than not, you will have customized modifier windows you have to set up and also force questions. You think in terms of when you're doing kiosk, the customer standing in front of the system, you have to probably put in a couple more questions for them because you're going to have to walk them through the process. There can't be any assumptions like there can be with the servers when they put their orders in sometimes. So you can set up a whole different group of questions when you use kiosk question form that doesn't follow this set of question forms. These are your default question forms that every item will have pop up. Once you go to kiosk forms, this is the alternate group form of questions that you set up. Now, typically when you do this, you would limit this to a specific station. So you, in policy setup, you would go into the questioning forms, and you would tell it to use kiosk question forms for certain stations. So, for instance, the best example besides kiosk I can give you for this is Drive-Thru. So in Drive-Thru, a lot of times you have more questions because the counter, they may not have all those questions. They may bag their own items. They may get their own salad dressings. They may ladle up their own soups, etc. So those aren't questions that you have pop when I'm on my order screen. And think in terms like probably more so for quick service than you would for table service. But in the drive-thru, you're putting the order in. Someone else is getting all that. Someone else has got to dish up the soup. Someone else has got to get the salad dressing out. Maybe when you're doing in the front counter, when you make the item, the person who rings it actually makes the item. So again, you don't ask for how they want the burger made, or maybe they're doing manual tickets or whatnot. But in a drive-thru situation, you need to have all of those questions pop up because that's how you get the order into the kitchen. So you would basically tell a system in policy setup, order forms, they're called order form, or question forms, excuse me, which question forms is that station going to use? And by station number, you would tell it which one that you wanted them to use, and then you build the questions out accordingly. So again, just as opposed to just kind of walking you guys through this, I'm going to go into policies, and I'm going to search for questions. So question displayed, that's not the right one. And again, this is kind of what you just need to do. When it comes to all these policies, because there's so many of them, put in a main word and see if you can find what you're looking for. Question button display, nope, that's not it. Question button size, use question. So specify which set of forced questions the station uses. Enable stations to use questions other than the default. So here are your choices. One is the default programming, which is the main set of question forms that you see on the product setup. Two is going to be web-to-go questions. So if I turn that on, then that also will populate, or kiosk questions. And then you just tell it which station that you want to use this for. So you can see that my value here is 0 for all stations. But if I were to choose, say, station 4, maybe station 4 is going to be my drive-thru station. I'm going to click on station 4. I'm going to go back. And typically when you're going to set things up station-specific, you do kind of want to already pick out your station before you start searching for stuff, because otherwise you have to go back and do it again, which is exactly what I'm doing. So use questions. So if I go in here and say, nope, for station 4, I want to use choice number 2, which is my kiosk questions, and apply. So then for station 4, it's going to default to the kiosk questions. That's how you can link them up. But that's one of the uses that you have when you're setting up your forms. So whether you use kiosk forms or whether you use web-to-go forms. I tend to, when I'm building for the drive-thru, I use the kiosk forms. You can also have more types of questions. If you look, we've got, what, 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 actually. 8 as opposed to 5 questions on a normal menu item. Which again, sometimes in some of the restaurants, so here's another example, some of the stores have a ton of forced questions. And again, we only show up 5 here. Well, one way that you can manipulate is to use kiosk forms instead, and then you get 8 instead. So keep that in mind too. So that might be something that you do just in general for all stations, because you just need more questions. I had an account that they literally asked questions for everything. So it was a burger joint. So, you know, first you got a question for what size of burger you wanted, because they didn't want to do shift keys. And they had, you know, 3 different sizes of burgers. Or take it, you could even do what type. So if I want a regular burger, turkey burger, or veggie burger. I think that's one of the other things that we had. What type of bun did you want it? What type of condiments did you want it? What side did you want with it? Oh God, there was like 3 other things. So I was literally like out of questions space. So that's one of the things that I used the kiosk forms for. So I had all the additional choices of questions that I could add to it. Combo items. We have comboing, being able to go in and do comboing on the system. So again, your quick service kind of guys. Let's see if I got my combo burger. Oh, I just thought too. Burrito combo. We'll do a burrito combo. So my burrito combo comes with a classic burrito, a large fry, and a small soda. So basically you just go in here and you add whatever product makes up the combo. So again, when you're programming, you're going to program a button called Burrito Combo, but you're also going to program in classic combo, large fry, long soda. Now again, these are probably a la carte items they have on their menu anyway. So you're not programming anything extra. You're just, you know, grouping up. So instead of them having to hit classic combo, large fry, and long soda, they're just going to hit the button called Burrito Combo, and it's going to auto order these items. One of the things that you can do is the prices, fixing the prices. You could have it set up that you put your price in with your burrito combo, say $6.99, so that's why your fixed price would be 0. But maybe for whatever reason you are going to put something in here where it's going to add the price, it's going to increase the price by a different, you know, a different value. So large soda, maybe even though it's a part of the combo, that ups the value by $1. Required items will work with our auto recognition. So what the system is going to do, the way this is set up, as soon as I hit, maybe the cashier doesn't ring up the auto combo, or it doesn't ring up the burrito combo. Maybe the customer's ordering a la carte because they just don't realize. So the cashier rings up the classic burrito and then follows it with a large fry. The system is automatically going to flag you. If you turn on auto combo recognition, it's going to pop up and ask you the question, is like, do you want to make this a combo? So that will encourage the cashier to say to the customer, you know, if you add a large soda to this right now, the cost is going to be, and it ends up being less money. This is something that they just need to know in their training documentation, on how much cheaper it ends up being if you combo it. Do you want to combo this? you want to add a large soda for an additional 50 cents? And if they say yes, and they can hit the button that says yes, and then we'll automatically turn it into the burrito combo. They don't have to go back and void out the classic burrito or the large fry that they've already rung up. It'll automatically do that for them. Void out those 2 items and turn it into the burrito combo if you use the auto combo recognition functionality. Because some customers don't. They just, they're looking up at the menu boards and they go, oh, give me a burrito, I want a burrito. I think I want, medium fried. Don't make it a large fry. Oh, maybe I can get, I'm going to want a drink. So how about making that a combo? So this helps with the ordering process at the counter. Encourage them to offer that as well. And that also goes with the suggestive description to help along with that process. Okay, so that is product setup.